All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this really charming folktale that has a pretty strange problem at its core. I mean, what happens when someone is too good? Yeah, you heard me right. This is a story about a guy whose honesty is so intense, it almost breaks the very system that's trying to reward him. It's wild.
So, let me ask you something right off the bat. Imagine you're just walking along, minding your own business, and you stumble on a treasure, a life-changing amount of money. Nobody's around. What do? Be honest, because that exact dilemma, it's right at the heart of the story we're getting into.
Okay, so our story kicks off on this snowy mountain. And we've got two very, very different groups of characters, but they both have the exact same goal: find a treasure that's buried near a crooked old pine tree.
So, on one side, you've got our guy, Suaifu. He's poor, like desperately poor, but his honesty is just unshakable. And then, on the other side, literally watching him from a cloud, we have a whole trio of celestial beings. You've got the Earth God, the Earth Goddess, and the Foundation Lord. And they've cooked up this special plan, this test, specifically to reward him for being so virtuous.
And their plan? It's actually pretty simple. They've buried this huge jar of silver, right? And then they used a little bit of divine magic on it, what they call a soil loosening spell, basically to make it so easy to find that even a chicken could scratch it up. So all they have to do now is wait for a food to show up.
And what do you know? Destiny, or maybe just a sneaky patch of ice, intervenes. Afu slips, and he just tumbles down this hill like a human snowball, landing with a big thud right next to that crooked pine tree. His boot accidentally scrapes away the snow and, bingo, he sees the top of an iron jar. It looks like the gods' plan worked perfectly, or so they think. All right, so this is it. This is the big moment the gods have been waiting for. The reward is right there, ready to be claimed. But Suafu's reaction? Well, let's just say it's not what anyone in heaven or on earth was expecting.
Up on his cloud, the Earth God is already doing a victory lap. He's nudging the goddess, all smug, totally confident that his plan was flawless. But what's happening up there in the heavens is the complete opposite of what's going down on Earth.
So back on the ground, Afu manages to pry the jar open, and out spills all this silver and gold just glittering on the snow in the morning light. You'd expect him to shout for joy, right? Nope. He stumbles backward, his face goes completely pale, and he is just filled with pure terror.
His first thought? This has to be treasure from an unmarked grave. So he immediately clasps his hands, starts bowing to the air, promising any spirits that might be around that he is not here to rob them. He wants nothing to do with this money. In fact, he starts frantically trying to bury it all over again.
Meanwhile, up in the clouds, it is absolute chaos. Total divine panic. The Foundation Lord almost falls off his branch. The Earth God's beard is practically standing on end. They're realizing their foolproof plan has one giant fatal flaw. Their guy is too good. He's way too principled to just accept some random mysterious treasure.
So, okay, the main takeaway here is that the direct approach was a total bust. It failed. The gods are realizing they can't just give him the money, they actually have to convince him to take it. And that's going to require, well, a little divine improv.
And this is where the Earth Goddess, who's always the practical one, steps in. She whips up a plan B. Her logic is simple. If Afu won't accept money with no owner, then they'll just have to invent one. And not just any owner. They're going to create an owner that he absolutely cannot say no to. And just like that, two of these celestial beings float down to the mountain, and they totally change their appearance. They disguise themselves as humans, specifically as a lost branch of Afu's very own family. They look like a wise old man and his kind, gentle wife.
So the stage is set for what has to be the most unusual family reunion ever. You've got gods playing the part of long-lost relatives, and their entire audience is just one very confused, very honest man who, by the way, is still trying his best to bury a fortune in the snow.
Okay, so they walk up to Afu and give a little cough to get his attention. The disguised Earth God just calmly asks, "Hey, what are you doing there?" Afu is totally startled, but he explains that he found this mysterious jar of silver and was just trying to bury it again, to keep it safe from thieves.
And that's when the Earth Goddess puts on a real performance. She pretends to be totally shocked, clapping her hands together,
And with just one sentence, she drops this whole backstory on the treasure, and more importantly, she creates a family connection. And that just stops Afu dead in his tracks. He's like, wait, you? You're from the Su family too? He is completely bewildered. Oh, and they don't just stop there. They weave this incredibly detailed, convincing story. First, they say they're his long-lost grandpa and grandma Su. Then they explain that their ancestors buried this exact money during a famine, ages ago. A dream, a prophetic dream, told them to come here and give it to the most honest family member they could find. And the final nail in the coffin? They insist they're old, they don't need it, and if he refuses, it would be a huge sign of disrespect to his elders. They've really cornered him.
So now Anufu is completely trapped, right? On one hand, he doesn't want to take money he didn't earn. On the other, he absolutely cannot disrespect these elders. The thing that really pushes him over the edge is when the disguised Earth God clutches his chest and pretends he's about to faint from the stress of it all. That's it. Anufu is terrified and finally gives in. Okay, I'll take it. Just please don't be angry.
And there you have it. With a little bit of celestial trickery and some seriously good acting, the treasure is finally on its way to the right home. It's being carried by the honest man himself, along with his two brand new divine relatives.
So they get back to his small, cold house, and it's just tears of joy all around. Afu is excitedly telling his wife this incredible story about meeting Grandpa and Grandma Su. She can hardly believe it, thanking the ancestors, thanking the heavens for being so kind. And this is where you really see what kind of guy he is. Even with a fortune right there in his hands, his first thoughts are not about himself. His plan is to repay a debt he owes a neighbor, buy a whole roast chicken for his daughter, and, get this, buy the best wine he can afford to make an offering to the Earth God. The same guy who just had to trick him into taking the money in the first place. It's brilliant.
Meanwhile, back at the celestial headquarters, the gods are in their shrine and they are just wiped out, totally exhausted from their little acting gig. The Earth God is rubbing his back, complaining about how heavy that silver was to carry and what a pain it was to trick such an honest guy. Turns out, rewarding virtue is actually pretty hard work.
And the story ends with the snow finally stopping, and this ray of golden sunlight shines down on Afu's house, a perfect symbol of their bright new future. But it leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? We all say we praise honesty, but in a world this complicated, does simple goodness sometimes need a little helping hand or even a clever trip to finally get the reward it deserves?